Hi everyone, welcome to today's overview. We will be talking a little bit about 2 Samuel. So yesterday we would have talked a bit about 1 Samuel, where we would have seen 3 main characters. They were Saul, Samuel and David. Through that book we would have seen the rise and fall of King Saul. Then we would have started to see the rise and fall of King David. And this continues now into the 2nd Samuel. 2 Samuel picks up after King Saul's death, and chapters 1 to 20 we see a season of success and of blessing where the Israelite tribes ask David to unite them and to be their king. And he does this, and what he does then is he goes to Jerusalem, he conquers it as their capital, and he renames it as Zion. And now chapter 7 is a really key chapter where we see God promise to David that from David's royal line there will be a future king, and this king will build God's temple on earth and he will set up the eternal kingdom. And this promise of the Messiah is what leads the Psalms and prophets to develop more and link this to God's promise to Abraham. This king is how God will bring his blessing to all nations. However, during this success and blessing, this also leads into moral failure. David sees a married lady called Bathsheba on her rooftop bathing. He decides to sleep with her and she gets pregnant. And David thinks that to solve his problem, he should kill Bathsheba's husband Uriah so that he can marry her. Now, the prophet Nathan says to David, this is wrong. This isn't what you should have done. And David owns up to it, and he knows this, and he owns up to God, and God does forgive him, but he does not erase the consequences which comes with this. And the consequences is why David's kingdom and family fall apart. And this also leads to David's sons repeating the mistakes that David makes, but more and more tragic. This rebellion ends when David's son is murdered, and David is heartbroken by this. But in David's last days, it finds him back on his throne, but as a broken man, wounded by the consequences of his sin. The book ends with chapters 21 to 24, which talks about the good and the bad in David's life, but how it generates hope for the future king that comes from his line. Thanks for listening.